I asked such questions as, how does an individual become political? How do they define the political? How and when do they enter into the domain of government? And how does that theoretically help me to understand the concept of the political subject and the state? I found these questions really interesting to ask in Nepal, where the government, quote unquote, is considered to be absent. FPE concepts like intersectionality and political subjectivity have been very important for me. My ethnography of the political subject in Western Nepal would have been impossible to envision, let alone carry out, without these concepts. Social categorizations of caste, class, and gender, among others, and the overlapping and interplay of these categories with the political domain are key to understanding political subject formation in the Nepali context.
I'm looking at agroecological grassroots networks in Italy. Not one particular initiative, but more networks of networks that are stretching from the north to the south, bringing forth alternative ways of doing agriculture. Now, the whole ontology of land, what land means, what reconnecting to the land means, not as a commodity to exploit, but much more a holistic way to think through it, also in more than human terms. How to embed feminism in these agroecological networks as a political vision, but then also sharing very personal experiences from careful or not so careful ways of how people work together in these networks.
I am Eunice, and I'm working on the changing gender relations in the face of climate change in pastoralist communities in Narok West sub-county. Basically, it's the southern Maasai community. Adaptation in pastoral context means changes in the main livelihood activities. That means a change in terms of herd composition movement, marketing practices, and also engaging in new activities. The people who got land actually having like the income, either the $5 or the $400 from the conservancy every month. The community has started engaging, community members have started engaging in, this is trading that is done in collaboration with shop outlets. Actually, women of all ages have really engaged in these other activities. I see how differences in power shape subjectivities, access to and control over resources, environmental knowledge, and problems, thus shaping structural inequalities and subjectivities.
I've been thinking through care, politics and ethics of care in socio-ecological relations, and how they're shaping everyday ecological ethics, or more than human. Spending that time talking to and working with farmers and traders who are part of different organic and alternative food networks in and around Chennai and Tamil Nadu more broadly, which will involve a more ethnographic approach with using participant observation, for example. And the idea is to map farmer relations, and specifically looking at the flows of knowledge and care. I've been thinking through more than human ethics, the politics of care, intersectionality, coloniality, and decoloniality. I'm always trying to kind of bring that into the context or lens of food. The first is collectivity in farming, and I came to this through my Sopicom in Pune, where I was introduced to gender and caste issues of land rights and the struggles of women farmers, particularly single, deserted and widowed farmers.
So the title of my project is The Everyday Politics of Food Commoning in Urban Community Kitchens. I propose that by subverting these intersectional patterns of power and by subverting market logics that commodified food and nature, the spectrum of access to food can be widened. Community kitchens are spaces that unfold through the construction of a sense of caring for others, in which the reason for cooking is to provide. Care, in this sense, does not only refer to the sexual division of labor, but also to the need for setting up a governance of food based on an ethics of care. The second key concept is producing through practices of commoning. By this, I seek to answer which solidarity economy imaginaries emerge from the existing acts of governing food through commoning practices. What happens when everyday practices of food preparation and food provisioning that are considered to be private and unpaid care work enter to the public space of the community?